In the previous PowerPoint demonstrations, we had an overview of double entry accounting and the first steps in the accounting cycle: analyzing transactions, recording journal entries, posting journal entries to the general ledger, and preparing the trial balance. In the following videos, we'll see examples of how those steps are completed. We'll be recording the transactions for the bike doctor, Sengal Moon's new business. His transactions for the month of October are listed here, as is the chart of accounts for his business. When you complete your assignment this week, please be sure to reference the appropriate chart of accounts for that exercise. We won't record all of these transactions in this video. However, all of them are completed for you in the Journal Solution tab. This exercise file and the solutions can be found in the Week 2 Online Presentations folder in an Excel file called Week 2 Collaborate Journal Ledger Trial Balance. I suggest that you open and save this file to complete the exercises yourself as practice before you begin to work on the assignment. The solutions are provided on separate tabs, so you can check your work as you complete it. The Week 2 handout, Normal Balance, is also provided here as a resource for us to use as we complete the journal entries. This handout is also included as a tab in the Week 2 assignment file and in the Week 2 handout section of the Learning Activities folder. This handout tells us the normal balance of the accounts. Although Tammy's Tresses has some account names that are different from those of the bike doctor, the rules remain the same. All asset accounts have a normal debit balance. All liability accounts have a normal credit balance. The owner capital account has a normal credit balance, but the owner drawing account has a normal debit balance. All revenue accounts have a normal credit balance, and all expense accounts have a normal debit balance. Now, we need to keep in mind that we use the normal balance to tell us how we will record increases and decreases. Accounts with a normal debit balance are increased with a debit, and they're decreased with a credit. Accounts with a normal credit balance are increased with a credit, but they're decreased just the opposite with a debit. Before we begin to record Mr. Moon's transactions, let's take a look at the journal. Each journal entry is identified by a number. J1 on the left tells us that this is the first journal entry. J2 tells us that this is the second one. This journal entry number will be recorded in the general ledger when we post the journal entries there. The date of the transaction is recorded, and then in the accounts and description section, we'll write the names of the accounts that are affected by this transaction. The description of the transaction is recorded below the journal entry. In the post reference column, we will be recording the account numbers, but that will be completed when we post this transaction to the general ledger. And the last section of the journal is where we record the debits and credits. So let's record a few of these transactions. In his first transaction, Sengal Moon invested $15,000 in his business. We have to ask ourselves which two accounts are affected. We know that the business has more cash, so that's one. And we also know from our discussions last week that whenever the owner makes an investment, we record the amount in the owner's capital account. Let's take a look at the chart of accounts. The name of the capital account that he uses is Sengal Moon Capital. If we look at the chart of accounts handout, we'll see that cash has a normal debit balance, so we'll increase the balance in cash with the debit. The owner's capital account has a normal credit balance, so we'll increase that account with a credit. I've given you the names of some of the accounts. Just to help you get started, normally you would record the name of both of the accounts that are recorded in this entry, but I wanted to give you a little boost to get started. So the cash account is being increased. It has a normal debit balance, so we'll increase it by recording $15,000 in the debit column. The Senegal Moon capital account has a normal credit balance, so we increase the balance in that account by recording $15,000 in the credit column. Now I want to point out a couple of things. We record the name of the account that's being debited first. It's on the first row. The name of the account that's being credited is recorded on the second row. This is just an accounting convention. It's what we usually do. The name of the account that's being debited is recorded flush to the left, and the name of the account that's being credited is indented just a little bit. We can start writing that name in the next column on the Excel spreadsheet. And the reason for that is that the name cash is on the left and the debit is on the left. The name Senegal Moon Capital is a little bit to the right, and the amount that's being credited to that account is over to the right. Accountants with a lot more experience than you have will be able to scroll through the journal and recognize the debits and credits much more easily this way. Let's look at his second transaction. On October 2nd, he paid the shop rental for the month for $300. Whenever something is paid, we know we're going to reduce the balance in cash. We'll look at the chart of accounts and see that he has an expense account called rent expense. So that's the account that we'll record along with cash. All expense accounts have a normal debit balance. So we're going to increase the balance in his rent expense account with a debit. The amount of that rent was $300, so we're going to record $300 in the debit column. We're going to record a credit to cash. If you remember, cash has a normal debit balance. When we increase cash, we record a debit, but here he wrote a check, so we're decreasing the balance in cash. We need to record a credit. So we're going to record the $300 on the same row as cash in the credit column. I also want to point out here that in every journal entry, the total of the debits will be equal to the total of the credits. That will be true for every journal entry that we write this term. So once we know that we have a $300 debit to rent expense, we also know that we have a $300 credit to cash. This is how we keep the accounting equation balanced, by keeping debits equal to credits. Let's look at his next transaction. He purchased bicycle parts on account for $2,000. If we look at his chart of accounts, we can see that bicycle parts is an asset. He now has more bicycle parts, so we're going to increase the balance in bicycle parts with the debit. So let's go do that. I've given you the name of the account. We're going to put that $2,000 in the debit column. He made this purchase on account. If you remember from last week, whenever we purchase something on account, that means it was purchased on credit, and we're going to increase the balance in accounts payable. Accounts payable is a liability account. Accounts payable has a normal credit balance, so we're going to increase the balance in accounts payable with a credit of $2,000. Debits equal credits. We've kept it even. Let's go take a look now at journal entry number 6. Some of these others are similar to ones that we've already recorded. So let's look at something new. In journal entry number 6, he received cash for services, $140. Right away, we know that we're going to increase the balance in cash. So let's go to the journal. Oh, we've already got cash recorded as our debit, and he received $140, so we'll put $140 in the debit column on the same row with cash. He received that cash for services. So whenever services are performed, we're going to record our revenue earned. We need to look at his chart of accounts, and we'll see that he records his revenue in an account called repair fees. All revenue accounts have a normal credit balance. We want to show that he's earned more revenue now, so we're going to increase his revenue account with a credit of $140 by putting that $140 in the credit column. Again, debits equal credits. Let's take a look at journal entry number 8. In journal entry number 8, he's made a payment on account. It says, see October 3rd. On October 3rd, he purchased bicycle parts on credit and for $2,000, and now he's paying $100 of that bill. Whenever we make a payment, we're going to reduce the balance in cash with a credit. So in journal entry number 8, we're going to record a credit to cash for the $100 that he paid. We don't want to record the bicycle parts again. We already recorded those in the transaction on October 3rd. Instead, we want to reduce accounts payable. We want to show that he now owes his supplier $100 less. Accounts payable is a liability account that has a normal credit balance. So if we were to increase the balance in accounts payable, we would record a credit. Instead, we want to reduce the balance. We want to show that he owes less. So we're going to reduce it with a debit. For the same amount, $100. And then one more. On October 23rd, he withdrew cash for personal use. So let's go back and see that transaction. He withdrew cash for personal use. Whenever the owner records or makes a withdrawal for personal use, we record it in the owner drawing account. Single Moon Drawing is the name of the account that we'll use. If we look at the normal balance chart, we'll see that the drawing account has a normal debit balance. So we're going to increase his drawing account with a debit of $50. Whoop. Since he withdrew this cash from the business and, he probably just wrote himself a check, we're going to take that $50 out of his cash account and reduce the balance in cash with a credit. Remember, we increase cash with a debit, but we decrease cash with a credit. The rest of the expenses, so the rest of the journal entries are recorded here in the Solution tab. The rest of them that we did not complete here are similar to ones that we did. So please take some time to review all of those and use this as a practice exercise, and you can use these as examples of how to prepare your own journal entries. In the next video, we'll see how we post our completed journal entries to the general ledger.